Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Shrutismritipurananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Samastagana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Sadgurum Pranatosmyaham. Hari Om. So we spoke about Maya yesterday and a part of the causal body. As the thought process, gross body was described, subtle body was described, then the causal body. So before going into causal body, Maya is being explained. So it is the power of the Lord. Unmanifest is one of the names, Avyakta Ramni Paramesha Shakti. It is constituted of three gunas, Trigunatmika. Anadi Avidya, it is beginningless and it manifests in the individual as the avidya, ignorance of the self. Anadi Avidya. How do we know Maya exists? From the effects we infer. The three gunas are the effects. The whole world is pervaded by the three gunas. So the cause also must be having the three gunas. Also the world itself is seen. And the changeless Brahman cannot bring out the world. So from the effect, again, we are inferring that in the cause there is this great power of Maya, which makes the cause appear as the effect, not the cause producing the effect or the cause modifying to become the effect, but the cause appears as the effect, like the rope itself appears as the snake. Better example is waker and the dreamer. The power to dream is there in the waker. So waker is like Brahman, power to dream is like Maya, and that power to dream projects the whole dream world, which is the creation. And all the dream characters in this dream world are all the individual jivas in the creation. And hence we see that the waker is lying still on the bed, but the whole dream world is happening, and there are so many things which are going on in the dream world. In the same way, pure consciousness, Brahman, exists untouched, unaffected. Nothing is happening actually from that highest standpoint. But from our standpoint, we are still identified with the body, so we see the world. Then from where did it come? It came from the power of Brahman, that is Maya. So using the effect, Karyanumeya, from the effect we infer that in the cause there is this great power called Maya. And who will know this? Sudhiyaiva. So one important meaning of the word Sudhi. So general meaning is a wise person, intelligent person. In this context, Sudhi also means one who is having faith and one who is able to, based on that faith, understand what is not visible, what is not perceptible to the senses. So the person has faith in the scriptures, the time-tested wisdom, has the faith in the existence of the Lord and this power of the Lord called Maya. So Shastra and Ishvara, the Shraddha is there in both. That person is called Sudhi. This word Sudhi is also used, many places it is used, but one popular place where it is used is in the Gita Dhyana Shloka, where it is said that all the Upanishads are like the cows, Sarvopanishado Gavo, Dogdha Gopala Nandana. The milkman is Sri Krishna, who milked the cow of the Upanishads. What is the milk? Dugdham Gita Amritam Mahat. The milk is the Gita. The essence of the Upanishads is in the Gita. And what will a milkman actually do? Before the milkman milks the cow, the milkman sends the calf. Because the calf, when the cow sees the cow's heart is filled with lot of love. And the calf drinks initially the milk, and then the milkman milks the cow. So Arjun is that calf, Partho Vatsa. Making Arjun as the instrument, the knowledge of the Upanishad was given to the masses, to all the people who are Sudhir. Partho Vatsa, Sudhir Bhokta. The consumers of these are the Sudhis, the intelligent people, the wise people who have the faith, who want to know what is behind this world of plurality. What is visible, perceptible is very common. Everybody knows that. But what is not visible is that changeless truth. And what is that changeless truth? To know that which is not perceptible to the senses and to the mind, Shraddha in the scripture is important. And hence the word Sudhi here means those who have faith. And this faith is not blind faith. As we have seen earlier in the Shatka Sampatti, faith was one important quality. This faith is based on logic, experiential proof, time-tested wisdom. Based on all these, a person has faith that yes, the scripture is saying that there is Maya, then Maya exists as a power. So Sudhiyaiva Maya. This Maya is known by such people who have faith. And it is also this faith which helps them to surrender to the Lord, the Mayapati. And hence go beyond Maya. Yaya Jagat Sarvamidam Prasuyate, by which this whole world is created, by this Maya. Now, this Maya is again described as an indescribable power of the Lord. So, there are three standpoints from which we have to understand this Maya. From the highest standpoint, which is the standpoint of Brahman, pure consciousness, absolute truth, Maya does not exist. Because there is no duality, there is no creation, nothing there. It's only pure consciousness. That's the state. Like when the waker has woken up, there is no dream, there is no dream world, there is no dream power, nothing. The waker is. So standpoint number one is the highest standpoint, where Maya does not exist. Because creation does not exist, there is only one pure consciousness. That is standpoint one. Standpoint two is the standpoint of the world, the creation. We are seeing the creation and we know Brahman cannot create. Then from where did this creation come? So we say that yes, in Brahman there is this power of Maya. So from the standpoint of creation, creation is the effect, Maya empowered by Brahman is the cause. Remember, Maya is not independent Shakti. It was said, Paramesha Shakti, it is the power of the Lord. So from the standpoint of the creation, Maya exists. From the standpoint of the absolute, Maya does not exist. The third standpoint is from its own standpoint. Without connection to Brahman or creation, if we try to describe what is this power of Maya, then this power is indescribable. So why is it indescribable? You see this verse number 109. Sannapya sannapyubhayatmikano भिन्नाप्य भिन्नाप्युभयात्मिकानो सांगाप्यनंगा युभयात्मिकानो mahadbhuta nirvachaniya rupa. So anirvachaniya rupa, it is indescribable. This power of Maya by itself, if we want to explain what is this power of Maya, without associating with Brahman, without associating with creation, what does this power do? What is this power? Very difficult, can't describe at all. Why? Because it is Sat api asat api ubhayatmika. No. It is Maya is neither existent nor non-existent nor both. Meaning neither real nor unreal nor both. What does that mean? So Maya is not existent. It is unreal. From which standpoint? From the standpoint of Brahman. It does not exist at all. It is unreal. At the same time, we cannot say it does not exist for us because we are seeing the creation. But while we are seeing the creation, we cannot say Maya is real also. Because what is the definition of reality? That which does not change in 3 periods of time, that is called as real. Everything else which changes is called an illusion. Maya is the cause for all the changes. So we cannot say Maya does not exist. Because if Maya does not exist, creation cannot be explained. So from Brahman standpoint, it is not existent. But from the world standpoint, it is existent, but it is not real. Because it goes on changing. And of course, it cannot be both at the same time, existent and non-existent. A thing cannot be both at the same time. So the first line means that it neither exists, nor does not exist, nor both. Because there is a lot of confusion because of the levels. As long as one is in Maya, Maya exists, but one should know that it is not absolutely real. It is an illusion. And hence, one has to strive to know what is that which is real. And like we spoke yesterday, increase the sattva guna so that the mind is becoming more and more subtler. The mind and intellect become more and more subtler to go into the cause of this creation, contemplate on that ultimate cause is Brahman, and realize that pure consciousness. So while living in the world, I have to know that Maya exists at a relative level, but it is not absolute. There is a higher reality. So that how do I live in the world not completely carried away by Maya? The same attitude as a seasoned traveler in the desert would have towards a mirage. The play of the sunlight on sand makes that sand shine and gives the feel that there is water. So when the traveler is traveling in the desert and he sees the water, the unseasoned traveler will run behind him. Already he is thirsty. When he sees water and there is a hope, okay, there is some water, I want to drink, and he runs there. But when he reaches there, he finds there is no water. So already he was exhausted and tired. Now he spent more energy in running behind it and then found that there is no water. But what will a seasoned traveler do? The seasoned traveler knows that that is an illusion there. It is not that he is not seeing the mirage. He is still seeing the mirage only. But in the mind, he knows very clearly that this is not real. Because he knows this is not real and it's an illusion, his contact with that is such that he is not carried away. He doesn't run behind it, doesn't get exhausted, conserves the energy. In the same way, while we live in the world, we cannot say Maya does not exist, so I don't do any sadhana, I don't do any meditation, I don't live in any self-control. That's a trick of the mind. Maya does not exist from Brahman standpoint. If a person has already realized Brahman, there is no question of having any doubt or any problem. But when we have not discovered that reality as our nature, then what has to be done? Then Maya has to be understood as the illusory power, delusory power. And in this relative world, there are laws, there are rules, which if we follow, discipline the mind, then we can go beyond Maya. So many times people say that when we study Vedanta, then we become disinterested, or there's no need to follow rules and laws, because anyway all this is an illusion. How does it matter? Paramahamsa Yogananda answered very beautifully to one person. He asked Paramahamsa Yogananda that if everything is an illusion, what's the point in living in discipline, self-control, sadhana? Why should we do that? We can live the way we want, because anyway it's an illusion. So Paramahamsa Yogananda gave a very nice reply. He said, if you can drink molten iron and remain unaffected by it, then you can do anything. Meaning what? If you try to drink molten iron, this body will perish, the body will burn. Because the body is subjected to the laws of this relative world. The mind is subjected to the laws in the relative world. And hence one has to follow that. If anyway everything is an illusion, then jump from the 10th floor. What will happen? The law of gravity will work. It will pull you down. One will fall, one will die. So the idea is this, that while living in the relative world, Maya does exist, but we should know that Maya is a relative power of the Lord. So how do I live in the world? I look at the whole world as an expression of the Supreme Lord. That this is the Maya of Bhagwan. That is one standpoint. So if I see some beautiful flower or a wonderful sunrise or anything in this world, when I see mountains, trees, plants, birds, even human beings, even all the great achievements that we have, in all this, what does one have to see? That this is the expression of the power of the Lord. Then what happens? The mind is not attached to the things, the mind focuses on Bhagwan. And the more the mind focuses on the Lord, easier it is for the mind to live in Sattva Guna and transcend the Maya. So either have the attitude that all this is divine and keep thinking of Bhagwan, or have the attitude that this is an illusion, the reality is that which is changeless. So the witness in me is the reality, everything else is changing. So have the attitude of I am a witness, everything comes and goes. Then also one remains unaffected, untouched. But one still follows sadhana. One still follows the dharma, the rules that one has to follow. One doesn't say that all this is an illusion, so I will not follow anything. That's the trick of the mind, to make us lazy, lethargic, indulgent. That's a part of this Maya only. That's a part of this creation, the power of the Maya. And hence, when it is said Maya does not exist, it is from Brahman standpoint. Either I should have realized the truth that Brahman alone is, then there is no problem. Or I must understand that from this standpoint, where I am identified with this body, Maya exists. But it is not real. So the attention must be on consciousness or on the Lord. Sannapya sanna hi ubhayatmikano. It is neither existent as changeless truth, nor non-existent because I am seeing the world. And it is neither existent nor non-existent, because a thing cannot be both. We can't say that snake is existing as well as non-existing at the same time. No. So that's the first line. This is the language of contradictions. It appears as a contradiction that it exists, neither it exists, nor it does not exist, nor it is both. But it is not a contradiction because it is from three different standpoints. From the standpoint of Brahman, it does not exist. From the standpoint of the world, it exists, but it is not real. And from the standpoint of Maya, it is indescribable, neither existent nor non-existent. Second line says, Bhinnapi abhinna ubhayatmikano. It is neither different, bhinna, api abhinna, nor same, nor both. What does that mean? Neither same meaning. So it is not same, meaning Maya is not equal to Brahman. Like people, like we spoke yesterday, when they equate the Lord to Prakriti, when they say God does not exist, there is only Maya. And Maya is, or the power, nature. Nature is creating all this. So they have made God and nature as same. It is like saying the singer, the power of singing and the singer are the same. They are not the same. The singer has many more other powers. Singing power is only one power. And the singing power does not exist independent of the singer. So they are not same, nor it is different. Maya is not completely different from Bhagavan. It is a power of Bhagavan only. Power of the Lord, pure consciousness, Paramesha Shakti. So it is neither completely different, nor equal, nor both. It is a power residing in the Lord, and with respect to creation, the Lord is manifesting that power. Like when one takes up the role of a singer, then one starts singing. At other times, one is not singing, one is quiet. Maybe one is writing something, or one is reading something, or talking to someone. So at those times, that power is dormant. So it is neither same, nor different completely, nor both. What is the implication of this? It is neither same, meaning we should not forget Bhagwan when we are seeing Maya, because that is what generally happens. The Lord is forgotten. Like a simple example, if somebody gives us something, we tell that person thank you. Somebody, when I am hungry, somebody gives food, or somebody in general gives a gift to me. When I take that, I say thank you. But in the world when we are living, the ability to think, the ability to feel, the ability to grasp, even the ability to say thank you that we have, all that came from the Lord. And that Bhagavan one has forgotten. The expression of that Lord, which is Maya, the power of the Lord, is manifesting as the whole world, as the creation, as the people, as all the things. And when the interaction is happening between us and the objects and the people and the situations in the world, we are interacting as though Bhagavan does not exist. The Lord who gave us the power to think and the power to write, the power to speak, to that Lord we have not said thank you. But the other things that we are experiencing using these powers, for that we are saying thank you to people. So that's a very small example. Like that, in every aspect of life, one lives as though God does not exist. Whereas the fact is, all this is an expression of the Lord. So when we say that the power of Maya is not separate, it is not an independent power separate from God. It is to remind us that there is a supreme reality. Looking at the effect, we should always remember the cause. Like looking at the wave, one knows that this is a part of the ocean, and it's an expression of the ocean. One does not look at the wave independent of the ocean. But in the world, that's the strange thing. In the world, we are looking at the effect. divorced from the cause. Why? The difference is, in the case of the ocean is tangible, visible to us. And the wave also is visible. So we are able to connect easily. In this case, the Lord is invisible to us. But this effect, which is the creation, that is visible. So we forget the invisible, that is the Lord behind. So bhinna, it is not the word no, which is there, no, in the last word of each line, that has to be connected to all the words. Bhinna na, abhinna na, ubhayatmika na. So it's not separate. It is not the same also. Maya and Bhagwan are not same. Maya cannot exist without Bhagwan. Bhagwan can exist without Maya. Like the singing power cannot exist without the singer. But the singer can exist without that power. Even if that power is not expressing, it is dormant for years, one has not sung, the singer remains. But the singing power doesn't remain without the singer. Meaning, however powerful Maya can be, it is not more powerful than Bhagwan. Maya is very powerful. It can delude the person. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya, all the 6 impurities, Maya can destroy a person. It can do many things. The power of ignorance is there, the power of 6 impurities is there, the wandering of the mind is there, Vikshepa. And then, of course, the temptations in the world, new temptations, they keep coming. So the mind can get easily enticed, and very glamorous is the world. One can get very fascinated by it and forget the goal of life itself. But however tempting and powerful the Maya may be, it is nothing compared to the nature of the Lord, the infinite glory of the Lord. So the devotee is the one who always remembers this fact. Maya is not separate from the Lord, and Maya is not equal to the Lord. Lord is always greater than the Maya, and Lord is always independent of Maya. So the devotee who worships the Lord, has faith in the Lord, is not scared of Maya, will be cautious, will follow dharma, but the mind is not scared, the mind is not victimized. Remembers all the time the Lord. So it is not the same as the Lord, it is not completely different from the Lord, and it is not both. So the sadhana aspect is to remember the Lord. Sangapi anangahi ubhayatmikana. It is neither made of parts, nor it is the whole, nor it is both. Anga means part. Sangha means with all the parts. So it is not with parts. Ananga means without parts, meaning the whole. So it is not with parts, it is not without parts, and it is not both. Now what does this mean? So parts are there for something which is tangible, which is finite. Like this computer has parts, different parts. A phone has different parts. A machine, different parts. Our body, different parts. So something which is a gross, tangible object has parts. What is subtle doesn't have parts. For example, love. Love does not have parts. It's an emotion that one feels. It is not a gross, tangible product with various limbs and parts. It is a subtler aspect. Ideals of the intellect, value systems, they are still subtler than that. And Maya is the power which is behind all this, the subtlest power. And hence, by itself, it has no parts. The cause has no parts, but the cause is appearing as the effect, and in that effect, there are parts. So, for example, we say that, okay, in the mud, by itself, the mud has no parts. But when that mud is made into let us say a pot. Then there are parts. Then there is the mouth of the pot. Then there's the neck of the pot. Then there's the body of the pot. Then those parts are there. They are created. But by itself, it does not have any parts, the mud. In the same way, the idea here is to say that that which has no parts, it is neither with parts nor it is the whole. Why it is not the whole? Because when we say whole also, we again mean something gross. One meaning is we again mean something gross, that from this whole, one part is created. So suppose there's 10 kilos of mud, that's the whole. And from that some 20 parts are created using 1/4 of that whole. 3/4 is still remaining. 1/4 is manifesting as some 20 parts, for example. So that whole also has different aspects where I'm taking out from the whole and it is depleting. Maya is not like that. It is not that this power is something from where creation has come out. So right now 30% of Maya is manifesting as creation, 70% of Maya is still intact. It's not like that. So this part and whole relationship is like that, where we consider that the whole from that various parts have come out. So it is not that Brahman is 100% and Maya using the power is now has projected Brahman. So 10% of Brahman is this whole world. No. Maya is neither parts nor whole, but it is that power which is responsible for all the parts in this world, all that creation in this world. And remember, because it is not a production, because it is not a modification, it's only an appearance. The rope is appearing as the snake. Brahman is appearing as this world. It is not that Brahman has become this world. So the part and the whole concept applies to that which is finite, which is tangible, which is where change is possible. In this, it is not possible. So by itself, the power of Maya is neither part nor whole. From standpoint of Brahman, we can say Maya is not the whole. From standpoint of the world, we can say that Maya is not all the parts put together. It's like the wave, and all the waves put together is not the ocean. Ocean is much bigger than that. Same way, all the parts, if we put together, it will not become Maya. Maya is not parts. Though Maya has 3 qualities, 3 gunas, and Maya gives rise to 5 elements, but these are not parts of Maya. Somebody may ask a question that how do we say Maya has no parts? Because Maya has given rise to 5 elements: space, air, fire, water, earth. The power of Maya is making Brahman appear as space, air, fire, water, earth. By itself, Maya is not having any parts. It's like saying the power of singing. The power of singing, when it is there, then using that power of singing, the singer may use 7 swaras. Sa, re, ga, ma, pa, dha, ni, sa. These 7 swaras are the manifestation of the power of singing. These 7 swaras are not 7 parts of the power of singing. That power is not bound, not limited by these 7 swaras. So it does not have parts. Maya doesn't have parts, nor Maya is the whole. Why Maya is not the whole? Because Maya is just a projecting power. Brahman is the whole, pure consciousness. So neither it is parts, nor it is whole, nor it is both. So then what is this Maya? Maha Adbhuta. It is extremely wondrous. Maha Adbhuta. So wonder is an emotion. When it arises in our mind, we become hushed. There is an awe. And in those moments, the mind transcends the boundaries of the finite. Suppose you see a glorious sight, maybe Mount Everest or the, let us say, the Niagara Falls or a beautiful sunrise. When it is most amazing and we look at it, we are stunned. In that moment, there is complete silence. One is just awestruck and wondering, what is this, such a massive, great manifestation? And there's a deep sense of admiration and awe that, oh my God, this is so amazing. At that time, one has forgotten the ego. One is not thinking about worldly things. One is just stunned. The beauty of that has stunned the mind. So for the devotee or for the seeker, when one sees the world, one is wonderstruck that all this is an expression of Maya, which is the power of Bhagavan, and look at the glorious creation. And when the person thinks like that, the mind and intellect is hushed. That's the moment where the person transcends. So it's an example to tell us that what is the attitude that one has in this world. One attitude can be that this world is meant for my enjoyment, so exploit it. This is what human being has done. Exploited this world for one's own selfish interest and destroyed so many things. So many species are endangered. So many have got extinct already. Recently I read one, Facebook, there was one video. A specific species of giraffe is on the verge of extinction. Why? Because of human poaching. The tail of giraffe. In certain tribes in Africa, there is a custom to exchange the tail of giraffe. It's considered to be very, a person who is very rich, of a high status, that person will give the tail of giraffe in some wedding or some ritual. The human being has done so much of this to exploit the world. So one attitude is, while I am living in the world, enjoy the world, exploit the world, don't bother about anything else. That's a selfish exploitation, selfish attitude. The other attitude is, I am here to serve. Bhagavan is manifesting here and I am doing whatever best I can to serve. And that is the attitude which brings about wonder, because all this which is manifesting, Maya is making the changeless Lord appear as the changing world. Remember, it is the Maya Shakti only using which Bhagavan takes avatar also. So if the Lord comes into this world as an avatar, that also is because of the power of Maya. And the devotee wonders, he lives in that glorious wonder that how did that changeless, infinite, nameless, formless, supreme Lord take an avatar and he's standing in front of us doing all the Leela. It's a glorious wonder. Avatar itself is a wonder, but avatar happens now and then. But the creation is there all around us every moment. It's a great wonder how this creation is going on. You just think about it. A small seed, how does it sprout? It is put in the ground under so much of mud and we put it deeply. We put the seed inside, put the mud on it, pack it nicely also, keep pouring the water. Where does that small seed get that power to break the layers of mud and come out, become a small sapling, and then keep growing? Even when it grows, it sucks out water against the power of gravity. Gravity is still functioning, but it's still able to suck out water and it still grows. This is just one example. Like that, in the whole creation, so many amazing things are there. So for a seeker, the attitude is of Maha Adbhuta. It is most wondrous that how this whole creation is and what is the cosmic intelligence behind this creation. That power of Maya is the power of Bhagwan. Looking at this whole creation, if one says that Bhagwan does not exist and this is all being done randomly by some power called nature, that is such a delusion. There has to be an intelligent cause behind this whole universe. Because every single aspect in this universe is a manifestation of intelligence. How things function, how systems are set up, and irrespective of human being, it is going on beautifully. Human being is the one who comes and tampers and destroys those systems. But otherwise it goes on so nicely. So what is that intelligence? That intelligence is most glorious. And it's the power of that intelligence which is this Maya. So Maha Adbhuta, that which is impossible is made possible by this Maya. What does not exist is brought into existence by Maya. It makes us see this as real and then makes us attached to it also. The seeker wonders, how can I be so easily carried away by this power? When a person gets up from the dream, when one realizes that a dream didn't exist, and I was so involved in that dream, it appeared so real to me. Sometimes when one wakes up from the dream, one is sweating, panting. Why? Because in the dream, one tiger was chasing a person. So it was so much of involvement in that. In the same way, this is the delusion, this is an illusion, illusion which is there all around us, but we still think it is so real. And it's a wonder, like how you see this magic show. When we see a magic show, what is our emotion? Our emotion is of wonder. How did this happen? This person had a coin in the hand, he showed also, and then he closed the fist, and then he opened, and the coin is disappeared. Where is it? And then he does all that, he shows also where the coin is not there. And one is wondering, how did that happen? You just see an ordinary magician doing some small tricks of the trade as practiced, maybe some hypnosis, whatever, skill and hypnosis, all kind of combinations are used. And one is wonderstruck, how did this happen? And Bhagwan has created his whole universe. Maya is that power using which he is creating. Like the magician has the power to do this magic, this Bhagwan. This example is there in the scripture only. Mayam tu prakritim vidhi mayinam tu maheshwaram. The magician is Maheshwara, the Supreme Lord. And the power of magic is Maya. And using that power, the magician is creating this magic. And one is wonderstruck. And what a great power this is, how this is happening. The immortal is appearing as the mortal, the changeless is appearing as the changing. That which is one is appearing as so many. And the best part is nothing has happened to the original. Just like in that, magic, that coin has disappeared, but actually nothing has happened to that coin. Or sometimes they show that one lady goes and sits in the box and then using the seesaw, they cut that box and they separate that box, and one wonders, this lady, how they are cutting, and all the boxes are made separate. And then again they bring that box and then the lady comes out. So that's a state of wonder how this is happening. Nothing has happened to that lady. Same way with Brahman, nothing has happened to the Brahman, but still this Brahman is manifesting as this whole universe. So Maha Adbhuta, this is a great power. Shankaracharya ji wrote 5 verses on Maya in a separate composition called Maya Panchakam. And in that every line ends with Aghatita Ghatana Patiyasi Maya. That this Maya is an expert in projecting something which has not happened at all. Just like the rope is getting projected as the snake. The rope has never produced the snake, and there is no snake at all. But still the snake will look very real. That's the power. So Maya is like that. From standpoint of Brahman, creation is not existent at all. Like from the Waker standpoint, no dream. But still, while I am in the dream is so real because the power of dreaming that is there in the Waker makes it appear so real. In the same way, this power of Maya is a wondrous power. One should be alert about this power. Otherwise, one will be carried away. So, Maha Adbhuta and Anirvachaniya Rupa. So, from its own standpoint, Maya is indescribable. So, these 2 verses are about this Maya. Now, this Maya, little more elaboration is given. When it was said 3 gunas, etc., what constitutes this Maya? How does this Maya operate? How does the Maya make that Brahman appear as this whole creation? All that is said now because that's all the part of the Anatma and the bondage. When the questions were asked, no, Konama bandha kathamesha agata, from where is what is bondage? From where has it come? Katham pratisthasya, how is it sustained? Those 3 questions they get answered when we understand this properly. What is bondage? To consider the world as real and the Lord as non-existent is bondage. To consider the body is me is bondage. So, Konama bandha. Kathamesha agata. From where did it come? It came from avidya. The cause of this is Maya. The cause of the world is Maya, and the cause of the individual is the ignorance, which is the manifestation of Maya in the individual. Katham pratisthasya. How is it sustained? That will come now. Because of the 3 gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas. What sustains it is our attachment to these 3. So rajoguna and tamoguna will sustain this Maya and this bondage. Sattva guna will help us to rise above it. Katham vimoksha. Katham pratisthasya, katham vimoksha. How to be free from it? Come to sattva guna, contemplate on the truth and realize. So now, all the time we should not forget that this whole Vivek Chudamani is an answer to those 7 questions. So this understanding of Maya is also for this, not just to understand what is Anatma, that causal body, but these answers are intertwined. So it's not one answer separately for each question. That one may find also, if one wants to, this specifically is answer for this specifically is answer for this. But as a whole, one has to understand the theme, the concept. So now in the 110th verse, Maya is elaborated a little more. Shuddhadvaya Brahma Vibodhanashya Sarpa Brahmo Rajju Vivekato Yatha Rajastamas Sattvamiti Prasiddha Gunastadiya Pratitai Swakaryaihi. So he says here, Shuddha Advaya Brahma Vibodhanashya. When will this Maya when will we be free from this Maya? By realization of Shuddha Advaya Brahma, pure non-dual Brahman. What is the example? Sarpa Brahmo Rajju Vivekato Yatha. The delusion of the snake that the snake is real and the snake has bit me and now I'm going to die, all that will go away when one does the discrimination that, array, this is not a snake, this is a rope. The moment the realization dawns on the person that this is a rope and one sees the rope, the delusion that this is a snake and all the consequent agitations and fears arising out of the delusion are gone. Sarpa Brahmo Rajju Vivekato Yatha. So though it's a wondrous power and Maya was described earlier, how to get out of Maya, meaning how to get free from Maya, that question, na? Katham Vimoksha, that is this. The answer is this. By realization of the Supreme, you will know this. Now, three gunas of Maya. Rajaha, Tamaha, Sattvamiti Prasiddha. These are the three gunas of Maya, which are constituents of Maya. This was, we elaborated it earlier itself when the word Trigunatmika came. But the Vivek Chudamani is elaborating it now. Sattva Rajas Tama iti Prasiddha. Gunastadiya Prathitai Swakaryahi. These are the three gunas of Maya. Tadiyaha, Mayayaha gunaha. Prathitaihi. Maya is known through these by the respective functions. Swakaryahi. Each guna has its own function, its own uniqueness. Now that will come out now. Because the tamas and rajas is that which is the binding power. The power, that which is keeping us in bondage. So they are taken up first to elaborate. Then comes the sattva guna. Because the methodology of Maya, as I said, is veiling, projecting. Avarana is called veiling. The truth is veiled and then it is projected as something else. That is called vikshepa. So there is Rajoguna and Tamoguna, 111 and 112. Sorry, 111, 112 is Rajoguna and then comes the Tamoguna. What is this Rajoguna? What is the effect of Rajoguna? How do we know at what time we are in which guna? So understanding of the three gunas is an important aspect of our sadhana. So that when we are aware that, okay, right now I'm in Tamoguna, I'm feeling lazy or lethargic or indulgent, now I need to pull myself out of it. Or I'm in a Rajoguna, that I'm reactive, I'm attached, I'm feeling hurt, I'm feeling very restless. Then I'm in Rajoguna, I need to pull out of Rajoguna. And then come to Sattva Guna. So three gunas and their understanding is important. Only when we understand the three gunas and we can transcend the three gunas, then this happens. Shuddha Advaya Brahma Vibodha. The knowledge, intuitive understanding of pure non-dual consciousness happens when we rise above the three gunas. The word Shuddha means that. That which is purest, which has no traces of the three gunas, which is beyond the three gunas, is purest. So now let us see, what is this Rajoguna? Vikshepa Shakti Rajasakriyatmika Yata Pravritti Prasrita Purani Ragadayosya Prabhavanti Nityam Dukkhadayo Ye Manaso Vikaraha. So what is this power of Rajas? So Rajas is called Vikshepa Shakti. It's the power of projection. What is the nature of this Rajaguna? The nature of Rajoguna is Kriyatmika. This Shakti is Kriyatmika, meaning action. So we should remember that every guna has two parts, two aspects rather, not parts, two aspects. One is the necessity of the guna, without which we will not be able to live. As long as we are in the world, the three gunas are required. The necessary part of the guna is one aspect, and the binding part of the guna is the other aspect. So what is the necessary part of Rajoguna? activity. Only with Rajoguna activity is possible. Otherwise, activity is not happening. Dynamism, achievement, work, hard work, success, all that comes with action, not by inertia. One has to become dynamic, one has to become active. So, Kriyatmika, activity is the very nature of Rajoguna. Whenever Rajoguna comes into the mind, we will want to do something, achieve something, get something, become something. That's the power of Rajas. Kriyatmika. Yata pravritti prasrita purani. From where activity has originated. Yataha pravritti means activity. From where activity, prasrita purani, is continuously originating from, this is from the time immemorial. The activity in this whole world, as well as in the individual, is because of Rajoguna. We see so much of activity happening all around us, including ourselves. From morning to night, we are running, achieving so many things. Whether it is for survival, whether it is for success, whether it is for gaining some glory, anything. The desire can be anything. Through the help of a desire, the mind becomes extroverted. One acts in the world outside till the desire is not fulfilled. And when it is fulfilled, another desire arises. Again, one continues the cycle. So that's why it is called Prasrita Purani. This is going on from time immemorial. The power of Rajas is that which makes me dynamic, run, do action. Now, this is the necessity part of it. What is the binding part of it? Ragadayoho asya prabhavanti nityam. Attachment, etc. means attachment and aversion. Raga adaya means raga and dvesha. All these, they, while we are doing action, we easily get attached to various aspects, to our own thinking, to our own insistent result, to certain objects, to certain people, attached. Ragadaya. Ragadayo asya prabhavanti nityam. This Rajoguna also produces this attachment because there is, one clings to something for one's happiness. Simple things, we create that equation. Now, I plus this object is equal to happiness. I plus coffee is equal to happiness. I plus this iWatch is equal to happiness. I plus this food is equal to happiness. The mind gets attached. Nothing wrong in liking something, enjoying something. But generally the mind hooks on to them, gets attached to it. Without it, it feels miserable. So the binding part of Rajoguna is attachment. Rajo ragatmakam vidhi, in the Gita it is said. Raga is attachment. Now, when attachment is there, what will happen? Dukkha-dayo. There is sorrow. Manaso vikaraha. All these mental modifications will come with sorrow. Grief will come, pain will come, agitation will come, all these. Why? Because attachment. So, ragadayo prabhavanti nityam, dukkadayo ye manaso vikaraha. And because of this attachment, the sorrow happens. So, one important point to know is, our sorrow is directly proportional to our attachment. Whenever we feel sorrowful, miserable, sad, one has to ask, where am I attached? Somewhere I am going wrong in my thinking, in my dependency, that without this I cannot be happy, so I am feeling miserable. More about this we will take up in our satsang tomorrow. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari